Hi, this is the fourth video using MasterDetails with LiveBindings. In our previous video, we saw how to impress the clients with animations. In this video, we will learn how to use the new LiveBindings technology to show an M&D relationship. When you have a customer with his/her orders or an invoice with his/her terms, you have a MasterDetails MD relationship. As explained in the Embarcadero Wiki, LiveBindings is a data binding feature supported by both the VCL and FireMonkey frameworks in RAD Studio. LiveBindings is an expression-based framework, which means it uses bindings expressions to bind objects to other objects or to dataset fields. LiveBindings is a very nice technology and can be used in VCL applications also, but its main targets are FireMonkey applications. Indeed, it is the only way to do automatic data binding in the FireMonkey framework. What we want to do in this video is to create a simple but complete FireMonkey application that handles a sort of MD relationship. Usually this kind of thing involves the use of some databases. In this case, however, we are abandoning the SQL-based approach that uses two or more datasets in favor of a purely object-oriented approach. In other words, you will use a list of objects instead of a simple SQL query, and the relationships are child objects contained in the main object, not another query. Keep in mind that if for this simple example the OOP approach may seem not necessary, when you deal with a lot of logic, the classic dataset approach rapidly becomes unmanageable, while the OOP approach tends to be really stable and easily maintained and understood by a third programmer. Now, we will see the simple UML class diagram generated by Delphi. The main list of objects contains the T-person instances. Each T-person instance, as shown in the preceding image, contains a variable number of emails. So the T-person class has a property called emails that is a list of T-email instances. Instead of filtering all the emails and showing only the emails related to the selected person, as usually happens in the classic SQL programming, you'll show only the emails of that person. No filters are involved. The emails are already tied to the person. In this video, the difference between the T-dataset approach and the V-object-oriented approach will be clear. The final application will look like this. This will be the final aspect of the MD application that is able to manage people and the related emails. Let's start. Create a new FireMonkey HD desktop application and name the main form as main form. Open the project. Here, drop two T-grid components on the form and name them GRD people and GRD emails. Set the options.alternating row background property to true for both the components. Set the options.row selection to true for the GRD people. Now, drop two T prototype bind source components in the form and name them as BS people and BS emails. Double-clicking on BS people shows its field definitions. Using the Add the First button from the left-hand side button, and we have to add 4 fields. As you can see, I have already the 4 fields here. Close the field definition of BS people. Double-clicking on BS emails shows its field definitions. Using the Add the Fist button from the left-hand side button, add the address field as you can see here. Close the field definition of BS emails. Now, drop a T-bind navigator component on the form and connect its data source property to BS people. Drop another T-bind navigator component on the form and connect its data source property to BS emails. Then, set all the elements inside its visible buttons property to false and set only NB insert and NB delete to true. This will allow you to insert or remove any email from a person. Now, drop 3 T-edit components on the form and name the edit first name, edit last name, and edit age. Our UI is almost ready. Add some labels and arrange the controls as you can see here. Now, the interesting part begins. Navigate to View LiveBindings Designer. The window shows the famous LiveBindings Designer. As you can see, all the LiveBindings enabled controls with their properties is shown here. On the left-hand side toolbar, there are a set of buttons useful to change the disposition and zoom of the diagram. Use the buttons. They will save your sanity. Identify the BS People element and drag and drop all its elements on GRD People. You can also drag only the column, but columns are not created at design time. So if you want, as usually, you will change the aspect of the grid columns. Drag every field one by one. Perform the same action as done for BS People with BS emails and GRD emails. Now you've to connect the editable field of the BS People component to the TEdits component. Connect bspeople.firstname to edit firstname.text. Connect bspeople.lastname to edit lastname.text. Connect bspeople.age to edit age.text. Do not connect the email's count field. This field is a read-only field, mapped to a read-only property and used to show the number of email addresses related to the current person. This technique can be quite useful when you have to show how many rows are contained in an invoice, how many orders are related to a customer, and so on. If you run the application now, you will see some fake data is generated. You'll also notice that there is no MD relationship between people and emails. We're about to face this in a moment. Close the application and go back to Delphi. Add a new unit. Name it businessobjectsu.pas and add this selected code to it. Now, go to the T-main form declaration and add this highlighted code in the private section. Now, create the people after scroll and load data methods in the implementation section. You can use Ctrl-Shift-C to generate the empty method body. This selected code is the load data method, and this selected code is for the people after scroll method. On the main form, create the form create and form destroy event handlers with the selected code. Now, show the main form, select BS People, and create the event handler for the onCreateAdapter event. This event is called when the tPrototypeBindSource method has to decide whether to use fake randomly generated data or your real data. You have to handle this event and plug the code to provide your data. Write this highlighted code in the event handler. Again, on the main form, select BS Emails and create the event handler for the onCreateAdapter event, and this is the code for it. If you run the application, you should see a working form showing the MD relationship, or better, a has-a relationship, because a person has a list of emails. Stop it and add a small trick. If you try to add a new email, the new line is added in the T-grid component. I hate data entry directly into grids. In some cases, it's a great feature, but in many cases, it only shows a badly designed UI. This is not the case if you're developing a spreadsheet. So let's create tBindSource Navigator to show a dialog to add a new email. Now, select the tBindSource Navigator component named BN Emails. Create an event handler for the before action event, and then write this selected code. That's all for the implementation part. Now, run the application and try to add an email. You'll see a nice dialog comes up. That's all, folks. There are a few concepts involved in LiveBindings, but these concepts must be well understood to create a working application. Let's analyze this application. At the beginning, the tPrototypeBindSource components are initialized with the tListBindSource, open bracket, t, close bracket, instances, so that they show actual data instead of fake data. Then, in the form create event handler, you created the actual list of objects that will contain your people and load some data in it using the load data method. This method loads some random data, but in a real application, it should read data from some query or from some web service. This is one of the LiveBinding strengths. You can visualize your data wherever its origin is. You are no more tied to T-data set. After loading the data, you set the BS People list of objects to your people and then activated it. This is okay for one single list of data, but how do you handle the MD relationship? In the bspeople.onCreateAdapter event, you set an after-scroll event handler for BS People adapter, the internal adapter used by tPrototypeBindSource. This event is called when the selected person changes. So you can handle the data visualization of the email grid from this event. This event handler is self-explanatory. This selected code sets the email object list to the emails of the selected person in the BS People adapter. The adapter is automatically deactivated when the underling list is changed, so you don't need to set its active property to false. Here, the BS emails is no more active. Let's activate it. Usually, working with the internal adapter of tprototype bind source is a bit messy because you have to write something like this. Saving a reference when you are creating the actual adapter in the onCreateAdapter method saves a lot of casting and makes code more readable. There are other solutions, but I really like this one. LiveBindings is a relatively new technology. It has changed a lot since its introduction in Delphi XE2, at least in the high-level components. The good old Delphi programmer seems to not completely understand its power, probably because T-Dataset along with VCL really does a good job for classic client-server applications. But there is still time to explore the capabilities. However, when you use FireMonkey, LiveBindings is mandatory, so I strongly suggest you try it because sooner or later you will have to use it for some mobile stuff or some general FireMonkey applications. Here are some links where you can find more information about LiveBindings. XE3 Visual LiveBindings user-defined objects at this link. LiveBindings grid columns at this site. tBindSourceDB at this link. tAdapter bind source and binding to objects at this site. Updating objects via an adapter, which you can find here. Formatting your fields at this link. The next one is XE3 Visual LiveBindings, samples at this website. If you're interested in the core of LiveBindings, you can read an old article of mine that is still valid at this site. Great! So we saw how to work around with LiveBindings in this video. In our next video, we will see how to show complex vector shapes using paths.